Ladies and gentlemen, dear subscribers, today we're diving into one of the most fascinating royal rivalries that shaped the British monarchy. The decades-long feud between Queen Mother Elizabeth and Wallis Simpson, the Duchess of Windsor. This story of hatred, jealousy, and royal drama will reveal the shocking truth behind their relationship that spanned over half a century. They despised each other more than words could express. "That fat Scottish cook," hissed the Duchess of Windsor when describing her sister-in-law, Queen Elizabeth. "The people hate her," thundered Elizabeth in return, "and she hates this precious country. She doesn't belong here." Their mutual animosity began much earlier than most people realize, before the abdication crisis that would forever change the British monarchy. The first sparks flew when the Prince of Wales broke all protocol by introducing his new American friend Wallis to King George V and Queen Mary at Buckingham Palace. As biographer Michael Thornton wrote, "With complete audacity, the prince introduced Wallis to his parents. While she curtsied, their majesties merely stared at her. The Duke and Duchess of York, later King George VI and Queen Elizabeth, were equally cold. The Duchess instantly disliked her. Elizabeth was offended by what she perceived as Wallis's vulgar behavior and the gaudy colors of her dress. Wallis was equally unimpressed, irritated by Elizabeth's sweet, slightly piercing voice, pink Scottish face, and plump figure. Royal observers recall that Elizabeth herself was once considered a potential bride for the Prince of Wales. Her ambitious mother had paraded him past her, but they didn't get along. Elizabeth's contempt for Wallis, older, unattractive, divorced, was multiplied by the belief that if the prince fell in love, it should be with someone well-bred like herself. Wallis made one of her most serious mistakes when she began imitating the Duchess of York in a sharp, mocking style. One afternoon, Elizabeth walked into the living room at Fort Belvedere, Edward's mini castle on the Windsor estate, and froze. Wallis was performing an aggressive parody of her voice and gestures. Elizabeth ran out. Wallis never forgave her for witnessing this embarrassing moment. Their hostility continued from their probable first meeting in January 1933 until Wallis's death in Paris in 1986, over 50 years of bitterness. Sometimes, especially in America, Wallis held the upper hand. The Windsors reigned in New York society with their permanent luxury suite in the Waldorf Astoria Towers, reserved table at El Morocco restaurant, endless stream of gold-embossed invitations, and wall-to-wall press coverage. But when the Queen Mother appeared in New York in 1954 and attended the Broadway musical The Pajama Game, the audience rose and applauded so long that she had to stand and wave in gratitude with tears in her eyes. As one biographer noted, such a thing never happened to Wallis. When the Duke died in 1972, at age 77, Wallis attended his funeral at St. George's Chapel in Windsor. Despite the solemnity of the occasion, bidding farewell to the only British king who voluntarily left the throne, Wallis's eyes were fixed only on her enemy, the Queen Mother. Elizabeth did her best to accommodate the grieving widow and tried to be polite. But according to Wallis's friend, the Countess of Romanones, the Duchess described the Queen Mother's hat as having a white plastic arrow sticking through it. She nearly laughed in the Queen Mother's face. It was so comical, even though she was overcome with grief. In 1967, Wallis and Edward came to London for the unveiling of a memorial to Queen Mary. Protocol dictated that ladies should curtsy to Elizabeth on this public occasion. Wallis refused. "She stopped people from curtsying to me. Why should I curtsy to her?" she snapped when asked. Their last words to each other that day ensured the hatchet would never be buried. As they parted, Wallis shook Elizabeth's hand but did not curtsy. "I do hope we shall meet again," said the Queen Mother, lips tight. "Oh," replied Wallis, knowing what she really meant. When? Looking back, this fierce rivalry reveals much about the British monarchy during a pivotal era. The Queen Mother once remarked, "The two people who have caused me the most trouble in my life are Wallis Simpson and Hitler," a statement that speaks volumes about the depth of her resentment. For over half a century, during which Elizabeth was Duchess of York, Queen Consort, and finally Queen Mother, these royal women remained at dagger's length. The hostility never ceased. Thank you so much for your time with us. If you enjoyed this fascinating glimpse into one of history's greatest royal feuds, please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share with your friends who love royal history as much as you do. Comment below with which royal rivalry you'd like us to explore next. Until next time, keep calm and stay royal.